welcome to the Lit Lotus podcast. Welcome back to the Lit Lotus podcast. It has been probably close to a year and a half, maybe not quite, since I've done a podcast. Many of you that listen to this probably thought I had just disappeared and that was the end of it. But I'm back and I'm excited to be back. So today I just wanted to share a little bit about where I've been, what my experiences have been, and insights. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it today. So let's just get straight into it. My name is Melinda Van Kirk. If you are just tuning in for the first time, I am a 6'3" splenic projector. That's my human design type. In terms of what I do, I'm a life, I don't even want to use the word life coach. We've renamed ourselves. So I am now an embodied energy guide, which is very different, but I integrate coaching, yoga, Ayurveda, energy healing, ancient wisdom, modern wisdom, all these things into helping us basically heal ourselves, come back into alignment, heal ourselves physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm back with a whole new version of me. I used to lead the Living Inspiration Tribe. That is been put on hold. I don't know if it will come back or not. I've got some new things in the works. I've started a Patreon account, which doesn't have a lot posted, but you can go over to Patreon and look up Lit Lotus and see what we have there. And I'm calling this the Lit Lotus Path. So instead of our Living Inspiration Tribe, Lit Lotus is the name of my business. And so that's where that came from. But I'm very excited for where this journey is taking me. And so today I'm just here to speak to you. So yeah, where have I been? Let me go back probably a year and a half ago. It was May, the last one I published. So June of 2024, so not quite a year and a half. I was doing my online yogas weekly. I was picking up more hours at my part-time job and still trying to do my coaching business, although that had sort of wound down at that point. Had it wound down? No, I was still going strong, just kidding. But I was in this period of like feeling I needed a little bit of a break. It was summertime, things get busy around the house, right? Everyone has families and children, and if any one of you have a spouse or partner as a teacher, you know, there's just a lot of changes that happen, right? Daily routines are totally different. And so I was in this space of like, let me just take a pause for 3 months and I'm going to come back to all of this, right? So that was my intent. Even my newsletter I sent out, I think early July, I was saying, you know, we'll be back at the end of summer. And then the end of summer rolled around and I picked up more hours at work and I was just done. I was burnt out again. And if anyone's gone to listen to my initial podcast or read my blog about my story on my webpage, and you can go there. It's litlotus.me, M-E. So if you've kind of read into that, I talked about my whole experience with burnout in the corporate world and how I had left that corporate world. And I was now in the space of coaching and healing, which I am. And I'm still in the corporate world right now. I wasn't for a period of time. But I had done it to myself again. So basically I was in this space of burnout. And I was like, the pause became filled with other things. So if any of you have had this experience, if you look at your human design chart and you have some of these open centers, and this is I'm not a human design reader, so this is all things I'm just kind of picking up from what I listen to. But if you have an open sacral center or even open root, you're often feeling pressured to do. So the sacral center, you're a projector, a reflector, or a manifestor, I believe. But that when you have that open, you're feeling external pressure, external influences on productivity. And our sacral center is down here below the belly button. It's kind of our gut, but a little below the gut, I would say personally. That's how I would describe it. And this center is, for me, it's like I can't even feel this center in my body, and that's how I experience it. So, and it makes perfect sense that it's open. And same with the root. The root is at the very base of the tailbone, the perineum. And when we have an open root, we often feel pressure to do, right? And so those of us with those open centers can probably relate very well. But even if you don't have those centers open, there's a lot of things in the chart that could influence you. But we put ourselves in these spaces of burnout. We do too much, we're influenced by too much, we're pressured by everything around us, and we think we can do it all. So just to let you know where I've been, I had taken this pause and I took on a role at the yoga studio, which this feels like eons ago, but I'd say it was August is when I started this role. Um, and this has not been shared with people, but I'm going to share it here because I can. The intent when I took on this role at the yoga studio as director of operations was to either buy out the studio or partner as an owner in the studio. And that was the intent. Um, and as I was very excited about it, but I took on a lot of responsibilities. It wasn't a ton of hours. Like I timed it out, it was like 10 hours a week, which sounds like nothing. But when you're doing 10 hours a week plus, 12, 15 hours a week at my other part-time job, plus my coaching group, and then you like spread it out over 15 different things, my head began to spin. And it didn't take long. And it was probably October when I was really feeling the pressure. And I was like, oh my God, like I was completely back in this space of I might as well had a full-time job working 50 hours a week because the mental fatigue and then the physical fatigue as a result of that was unbelievable. And I thought thinking, well, there's a means to an end, right? Everything's going to shift. I don't know how long I have my part-time corporate job. I don't know, this is going to be the studio. I'm going to end up buying out the studio, which is what became the intent. And we'd never had a conversation around money, which I had wanted to early on. And I went against my instinct of starting before I had that conversation, right? So anyways, as time went on, I realized how tired I was. And so I scaled back a little bit at the studio. I was still doing quite a bit, but 5 hours a week. And then we finally had this conversation around money in probably November timeframe. And the price to buy the studio and where I was at spending money on the studio were leagues apart, like, night and day. And I was so disappointed that I had put in all this time. And at the same time, when I took on this role, I was like, well, I'm going to learn so much. If I ever want to build my own studio, I'm going to have all this knowledge. This is going to be great and really beneficial for me. And so I said, no, I'll stay on as director, find another buyer for the studio. It's fine. We'll figure it out. Here I'm thinking maybe I'm only going to be doing this another month or two, or, there's going to be a new person. Maybe I take on more of a role and cut back at my corporate job. Anyways, I digress. There was a lot of opportunities and unknowns, right? And then I went on my trip to Florida that I go to every year at Christmas time. And I had a lovely week and I realized how tired I was. And sometimes when we're surrounded by all these things, especially those of us with open root, open sacral centers, we start to just like you feel the pressure and you feel it build up and you're tired and then you just keep doing and you keep pushing through until you take that break. And then as soon as you have that break, you start to feel like that overwhelming, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. That's all I could say. I didn't realize because I'm running on other people's energies, right? So those of us with an open sacral center, we feel that pressure, but we're energized by the people around us. So we're running on that energy around us. So, oftentimes human design readers will tell me and look at my chart, oh, you'll do great working in environments with other people, like a coffee shop, just having that energy around you because you can use that energy to get things done. But you have to be really careful with that because as soon as you step away, whether it's, just by yourself for a day, maybe your weekends, just you totally tank on the weekends. You probably can understand that. If you're at burnout, you definitely understand that. You tank at night, tank on the weekends, everything shifts. The food, the eating, your energy, your exercise routine, everything starts to slowly change and slip away. Or you push through and you keep doing to keep that routine, but then you're even more exhausted, right? And so through all this, I was like, I need to step away from the studio. Like, I can't be in this space. It was nothing wrong with the studio. It was feeling this massive overwhelm of work and energy. And I made that decision to stop as director of operations. I was still teaching classes and I decided to just take a break. It wasn't well received. And I'm just being perfectly honest. And I think there was a lot of hurt feelings, which was never my intent. But that is what it is, right? We resolved it. We worked through it. Fine. But as I stepped away, I started to realize that like a month after I'd stepped away, maybe like I need to step away from everything. I need to move past this space. Like it's time to leave the studio. And I felt bad, right? You have a community of classes. I was teaching a lot of yoga, but I was through all this, I was adding in more hours at my other job. So I was up to, up to 20 hours a week at the other job. And I was like, I have to step away. I can't keep doing all these things. And at this point, my coaching group had ended and I was just taking a break from all that. So business was put on the back burner. Anyways, long story today. But as I was stepping away and realizing how freaking tired I was and how I just needed time, I started to rest more and I started to get a little bit of creativity and energy back. And I joined a group and my mentor, and she's just amazing. And I was like doing things for my business and feeling good about it, feeling that positive energy. And then this summer came, and it was like my husband was big on house projects. And to be fair, I wasn't contributing as much as he was when these big projects came up, and he was like really like unhappy about it. So I agreed. I agreed. Okay, I'll do my share of the projects. I'll get these things done. Reluctantly agreed. Didn't really want to do it, but I was like, I can give, a Saturday once a week, whatever, to work on projects. And then fast forward to about, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And by the end of summer, I was so run down, so burnt out again. So it's crazy to think, and I wasn't recognizing I was doing all this, but as we take away and we strip down and the acknowledgement and the need for rest. And I love learning, so I'm always reading books, and I've read some amazing books, which I'm going to get into here. But as we tend to step away, those of us with this open root, open sacral center, start to feel the pressure to do once again. And it's literally just being in the energy of someone else. Like my husband is a manifesting generator. He's high energy. Like I don't know anyone that has his energy levels. But then when he rests, right? Like he goes hard, hard, hard. He's good. And then like Sundays, he's like, that's just my nothing day. I watch football and sit on the couch. And he's totally recharged for the week. And I look at him in awe. I'm like, well, why can't I can do that too, right? I start to feel that pressure of the Manny Gen, and I can do it too. But the reality is, I don't work like that. I don't. And so what's happening, and there's a lot of things in my body physically going on. I'm perimenopause, transitioning into menopause right now. Like it's been, the hormone levels have dropped. There's a whole medical thing going on with that, trying to figure out how to rebalance myself that way. And Ayurvedically speaking, and like things have just gone out the window. So this summer has turned into, I probably can't say it, but I'm gonna say it's turned into a shit show of like me trying to do generator style living once again and burning myself out. And this is not to say that anyone can burn themselves out. But those of you who are highly sensitive people, and you can be a Manny Gen and a Gen and be highly sensitive, but you're much more, the Manny Gens and the Gens are more in tune with this physical reality, right? Like they have more closed centers where they don't feel the external pressures. Those of us that have more open centers feel in all those open centers, those external pressures around us in different ways. And I'm just learning for myself recently, like I'm seeing the pattern happen again. And I'm like, this is what I need to do now. So this is where all this story is leading is I've had these wonderful light bulbs go off over the last few weeks. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, but like, what is it that I really want to do? And I've always wanted to help people going through burnout because it's something I've experienced. It's something I've lived and something I thought I was good at no longer doing. And I have all these wonderful practices, which I fully stand by. Like my Ayurvedic practices and routines, fully stand by them. And when they go off, I can feel the difference in my body energetically, mentally, physically, right? So like if I'm not cooking for myself and I'm buying food out, I feel a difference in my body. When I cook for myself and I cook the foods that I need in my body, I notice a difference and it feels great, right? So like those things are all real. And I need that routine and I need days of rest and I need to come into the being. But I realized through all this, yes, I need those things, and I think many of us need those things to avoid burnout, but it's so much more than the daily routine. Like that's one piece of it. And I will say most importantly, my daily routine is my meditation, my yoga practice, Um, those two things, and everything else is important, but meditation being number one. And I use my yoga practice to physically move energy so I can sit in my meditation. So if you're a Vata type and a little bit like me, if that makes any if that means anything to you, but the Vata type is sort of in the air a little bit, right? Especially as we come into fall and things are drying out, we're really start to get aggravated and kind of have this energy and then the crash energy, right? So that's that Vata energy. But if you are experiencing that and then you're repeating these patterns just like me, I would love to, one, hear from you, and two, if you want to check out my Patreon, I've got energy alignment practices that I'm starting to post. I also do them on Insight Timer. I'm only doing like 2 a month instead of every week. So I'm monitoring my energy before I make these commitments, right? So I'm really trying to sink into like, what do I need for my energy levels? What do I need to recharge? And really honor that and almost take the to-do list and throw it out the window some days. But I really want to speak for a moment on how I got to this point. So over the last 6 months, I've started doing A Course in Miracles, which has been, it's been interesting for me. Like there's days I'm super in tune and other days I'm not, but the general meaning behind the Course in Miracles is life-changing. I read David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, and I so recommend that. And that has really brought me to do a lot of inner child work, as well as working with my own coach. Susan Sage is her name. And she's very much based in A Course in Miracles and her teachings. But it's all about tuning into our energy and aligning our energy every single day, throughout the day, and allowing ourselves to be in this space of stillness and doing this shadow work and this inner work, right? So the inner child work is working through past traumas. And it really helps even with like relationships with others, family, spouses, partners, yourself. There's so much work to be done. And when we start to do that work and we start to let go of those things and we start to trust in the energy of the universe more, that's where we can start to come into alignment. And really, it's surrender, forgiveness, and trust that has got me to this point where I'm at right now. And this point of feeling excited once again about my business, excited to come back and serve people and help people and do it in a way that feels sustainable and it feels natural and it feels organic and it's not pushing and it's not doing. And so if you happen to be a projector or a reflector, right, we're not about pushing and doing. And manifestors, okay, so full disclosure, I don't have a ton of information about other human designs besides my own. But I have a good friend that does human design readings, Jill. So she will be my person to go to on this. But, you know, those of us with these centers that are open that we're not meant to force and do, and we have our rules in a way that makes sense for all of us to come together and collectively, the human race works. It's when we're in this state of separation of mind, thinking we're separate beings. And I always had this understanding, of course, you know, we are all influenced by nature and of course it's all connected. And I've always had that understanding, but what I really didn't have is the ability, which is a work in progress, right? But to look at another human soul, even someone that has done something horrendous, and see through that illusion of separateness and connect to them as another soul. And it's hard sometimes, right? It's work. And often when you're like, this person has just done something horrible, I don't understand, and I can't connect with that. How could they do that? But they're not all of the nobody's all good and all bad. So they're not all of that. That person is not just defined by that one thing in life. I was watching a show on Netflix, and I can't remember the name of it, but this girl's being cyberbullied. Spoiler alert. If you want to go watch it, I'm going to ruin it for you. But she's being cyberbullied, and so is her boyfriend, and then they break up, and she's young, like 13, 14, 15 years old. And then the messages continue for both of them. And they're horrible, horrible messages. Basically like, you know, F you and sexual things about this boy. And Um, the girls like, go kill yourself. And then it turns out it's the girl's own mother that's bullying her. And it's basically like this cyber Munchausen's. And it's so hard for me to understand as I'm watching this, like you've tortured your child. I mean, it's the same as like regular Munchausen's, right? You physically hurting your child so they need you. So they like, in ways that maybe they don't know they're being hurt, right? Like poisoning their food a little bit, making them sick, having to take them to the hospital all the time. So that child is so dependent on you and you're trying to control that situation. And all that, of course, is deep-seated psychological issues rooted in fear and rooted in separation. And so for me to look at this woman, and of course in the moment I'm making all these judgments and how could she do that? And that's horrible. But then I remember like this is a woman that's deeply, deeply in need of help. And she's got deep wounds, and I can look at her as another soul and find compassion. And it doesn't justify any of the things that she did to her daughter. And that's also her daughter's lessons to learn, right? So her daughter's getting so many lessons out of these experiences. And to have that trust and faith and connection in humanity, one, it takes forgiveness of things that maybe happened in your past. So looking at childhood wounds. I did this really cool practice this week with Alberto Violdo, a little free 21-day course he's doing. And it was just looking back at 3 periods in your life, your childhood, like early childhood, teenage years, and then early adulthood, and like looking at those phases and forgiving someone in your life. So like whoever came to mind, like a childhood friend that they did something to you, right? And I can even think of a friend that did something physically and emotionally to me, at least, I mean, she hurt me, but I allowed that to happen, right? So not to put myself in victim mode, but like forgiving that act of like, I forgive you, and now I can release it. And letting go of the resistance of feeling the feelings. And if you look at David Hawkins' book, that's all he's talking about is like sitting with the feelings and not telling the story around them. Like it wasn't like, oh, I had to have this whole explanation of why she did it. Why did this girl, my friend, play these manipulative games? Or why did she dig her nails into my arm? And, why did she do these things? This was my best friend. And I'm sure it was all out of fear and separation and wanting control, right? That's usually where it stems from. And it's not to say it was okay that what she did, but I'm looking at that and I forgive that and I can feel it like release out of my body. And that's really the act of letting go. And that's where the trust comes in. And when you're really struggling to trust, you literally could just breathe in and out and give it over to God. Give it over to the universe, give it over to spirit, whatever, your guides, your ancestors, whatever you connect with is the right answer. Highest self, that's usually where I go. I hand it over to spirit. I ask my highest self to take this from me, even my to-do list. Like, what's my to-do list today? All right, take this from me. Help me get it done as it needs to get done in its own time. I'm not pushing, I'm not forcing, and I'm not moving through it, right? I am just letting it unfold as it needs to unfold and letting go of control. And that's the surrender piece, is letting go of control. It's not allowing all this stuff to happen to you because it's all happening for you and we are creating our own worlds. So when I allow my friend to dig her nails into my arm, it's because I need to learn that experience about standing up for myself. I need to learn that experience about not people pleasing. And it's taking me, I'm 49 years old and I'm just the last 2 years, I think I've worked on that. So a lot of times we have lifetimes to learn these lessons, and this is my life this time around. And maybe, hopefully, I work through that karma and something else is next time around, right? So we have these opportunities every single day to move through the stuff that we're dealing with. So work on letting go of your stuff, work on releasing what no longer serves you. And I know that's sort of a quote unquote, right? Every yoga teacher says that, but it's true. The letting go process is releasing what's happening in the moment, releasing the feelings. Because if we don't release those and we don't allow them to move through us, they get stuck in the body physically and they manifest as disease. They manifest as not just ailments, but like you can feel it in your body physically, right? Like you can feel your throat close up. I can feel that lump there when I need to say something or it needs to move through the throat center. And it's like there's something there that I need to work on, right? Sometimes you feel it in your gut. Sometimes you feel it in your chest, right? If you have grief, we feel it right here in the heart center. So today's podcast is kind of long-winded for the story, but I'm really excited and ready to move into this next chapter. And if you want to join me in this next chapter, please head over to my website, litlotus.me. Go to my Patreon, Lit Lotus Path is what the membership is named. And I've got super, super affordable options in there because I want to make this something that anyone can benefit from. You can join me for free on Insight Timer. It's Melinda Van Kirk. And I would love to hear, put in the comments, in the chat box, hear what you think of this, hear your experiences. And yeah, we'll see. I don't know when the next podcast is going to be, hopefully in a couple of weeks, but I'm letting it happen as it needs to happen. So when I feel those bits of inspiration, I'm going to let it unfold as it needs to. And in the meantime, I'm here to connect. And even I'm looking forward to my path and where it goes. And really excited about these recognitions of where my burnout happens, because I think we can all benefit from that. We start to pay attention to how our energy is moving in that moment or how it's moving day to day. And then we can start to recognize, okay, this is where I've done too much. I need to step back. I need to rest. And I need to come into the present moment. I need to be still and just be, not do. Have a wonderful, lovely day. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Namaste, everybody.